And unfortunately, I went down the wrong path for a moment. You know what I mean? And we'll get to that. But growing up, I grew up in a small town called Brawley, California, and that is on the southern border of Mexico and California, and like on the eastern border of Arizona. It's in the middle of the desert, man. It's a small, small town. I have both parents growing up, a sibling, a younger sister. My dad actually became a correctional officer in 1993. So I was 9 years old at this time because I'm 40 right now. And it was a strict household, not like overbearing strict, but there was definitely rules that I had to abide by. I was a C average student. I skateboarded in high school, but then I began to rebel. I began to rebel when I turned 15 years old. My grandmother passed away, and I don't want to use that as an excuse, but that was when that happened. I started to drink alcohol. I got introduced to alcohol, and then I basically viewed joining the military as my way out of that small town and to hopefully gain some discipline. And that was in 2001, right before the war in Iraq. The war in Afghanistan had already started. And yeah, I would eventually find my way there.
So how did seeing 9/11 on the TV affect you?
I was 17 or 16 years old at the time. I had already had the inclination that I was going to join the military and leave. I was asleep in my bedroom, and my dad woke me up, and we had those little box TVs back then, like a 19-inch box TV. That was like the norm, the rage back then. And he's like, Hector, wake up, wake up. They're attacking us. You know, I wake up, and the first words out of my mouth were, F yeah, I'm going to war. And I said that because I was immature, naive, looking for war at the time, looking for a way to prove myself. But I didn't understand the severity, the gravity of the whole, what would eventually become the global war on terrorism for 20 years. And we can go into the political. If you want, we can talk about, when we get to it, we can talk about how the mainstream media and the U.S. government made it look like something when we got there, it was totally not that.
Yeah, let's save that for when you get there then. So, this thing's happened and people want to protect the country.
Correct.
It's a patriotic thing to have that drive. So as a young person then, you do sign up to the military. What branch of the military is that?
Army.
And what training did they put you through?
It was my MOS was Infantry, 11 Bravo, so a grunt, the troops on the front line, as they say. And I went to basic training in July of 2002 in Fort Benning, Georgia. It has since been renamed to Fort Moore, but Fort Benning, Georgia, man, you basically learn how to kill, how to close with and destroy the enemy within a team, a platoon, a squad size element, and you become very effective.
And did you feel that that was your calling at that point in time?
I was too young to understand what a calling was. I felt like I was doing what I wanted to do at that time.
And did you click up with everybody in training okay, or was there any issues?
Well, in training, it's crazy because, like I said, I'm from a small town, man. So with a small town comes like a narrow mindset. So I got introduced to people from Kentucky, different like races that I hadn't really interacted or lived amongst. People from everywhere, man. Pennsylvania, Florida, Georgia, Texas. A lot of people from Texas. So while I was there, man, they have this thing called Joe Crud. Joe Crud is that you get real sick in basic training, man. I'm pretty sure it happens in the other boot camps. Pretty much, I guess people bring their sickness from like wherever they're at. Maybe the flu is different in Florida than it is in California. But anyways, when you get sick bad, man, because it's all put together.
So you're saying that there were some periods of illness?
Oh yeah, man. That's a problem too. Back then in 2002, America wasn't as soft as we are now. Things have changed, and it was extremely frowned upon to go seek medical aid. I mean, you just didn't do it. You didn't not say, "Hey, I need to go see the nurse," or "I need to go see the doctor." You didn't do it. So you had to just tough it out, and you toughed it out. It
So
sucks.
what was the biggest challenges during training?
Initially, the biggest challenge was when I first got to basic training, and the drill sergeants, some of them were already combat veterans from serving in the Gulf War in the 1990s. What they were, some people might call it brainwashing. What they were telling us was like, "Hey, you're a killer. You're a killer. You're gonna kill. You're gonna go over there. You're gonna kill. You're gonna kill. You're gonna kill." Well, initially, that didn't sit well with me. Now, even though I signed up, even though I knew what I was going to get myself into, just the initial like shock, I guess you can say, of damn, this is real. Like they want me to be a killer. Um, so I had to trick my mind into believing that it was cool. You know what I mean? Like the thought process I had was, I better accept this, or else I'm going to have a real difficult time during this training. And that's what happened. And maybe that's part of the psyche change that happens.
Wow, that's fascinating. So they're programming you to kill,
Yes.
and you're trying to mentally envision that, even though you're not actually doing it. You're trying to like rehearse it. Is that correct?
Not that I was envisioning the actual act of killing, more so that I may have to do it. It is my job. It is required. Um, and I was coming to terms with that as a 17-year-old kid, when the human brain does not stop developing till the age of 26. So I'm just cramming this new information into my brain at a young age.
So was that intimidating to absorb?
It wasn't intimidating. It was nerve-wracking because it was foreign to me. It was new to me. I was, and there's a difference between people who join the military and people who do not have that experience. Being in the military calluses your mind. It strengthens your mind. It allows you to tap into other parts of your mind and your body that under normal circumstances you would not. So I was exploring myself as a person.
So what was the morale like as you got towards the end of training?
Well, toward the end of the training, everybody's happy just to get out of there, man. There's no television. There was no cell phones at the time. There's no radio. Like I said, it was a different time frame, 2002. Basically, man, you're living in a barracks in a dorm, and you have no contact to the outside world. So that is your world. Um, so everybody was happy to leave those confinements. The only contact we had with the outside world was the in front of the chow hall where you eat breakfast and lunch and dinner. There was a newspaper stand, and as you wait in line at the position of attention, I used to look out of the corner of my eye and see the headlines. And at the time, the headlines were Saddam Hussein, weapons of mass destruction. At the time, was the DC snipers, where it was like a father and a son that were DC snipers. Um, so like the war machine, the war drums were already beating. The drill sergeants told us, you're going to be going to Iraq. You're going to go. There's without a doubt you're going. Everybody knew we were going to end up there.
So what was it like getting sent to Iraq?
Well, before I went to Iraq, I was stationed in Germany with the 1st Infantry Division, the Big Red One. And man, as soon as we got bussed into a classroom on Leadward Barracks, the first thing out of the sergeant's mouth was, if you guys are going to 118 Infantry or 126 Infantry, you're going to Iraq. And I remember everybody just put their head down, and it was somber. Like reality had hit. And even me, I was like, man, what did I do? Right? What did I do? Am I ready for this? Is this really what I want? But believe me when I tell you, at that point, there's no coming back. You're going one way. And prior to deploying, you have to go through this whole series of examinations, tests, get your will together in case you get killed overseas. And I recall one of the people there were like, hey, you don't have to go to Iraq if you don't want to. You're your father's only son. And I'm like, what? I'm going, right? I'm going because I had already trained with my friends, my brothers, for one whole entire year in Germany in the snow, like negative 20 degrees. It was freezing. So there was no way that I was not going to go to Iraq.
How did they transport you to Iraq?
Well, when we left Frankfurt, Germany, we left the airport in Frankfurt. It was snowing. And when they weighed me to get on. When they weighed me and I stepped on the scale, I kid you not, man, I must have been on the scale, must have said like 270 pounds or like 300 pounds. And my body weight was only at that time 165 pounds because of all the gear, the ammo, the javelin system. It's a anti-tank missile, and my rucksack. So yeah, it was a lot of gear. And then we flew into Kuwait. And it was like 100 degrees. It was hot. So we went from cold, freezing cold to pretty hot. And then we stayed in Kuwait for 1 month in some tents in the middle of the desert. You couldn't see anything. And we trained. One thing I credit the Army to, one thing I credit my unit to was we trained so hard. We basically trained, and I'm not even kidding you, 20 hours a day, all the time.
I lived in Arizona for 17 years, and I've driven past those towns on the border with California, and I know what the temperature's like out there. So, would you say you were used to those kind of climates, or was Kuwait something else?
Well, what's funny is that I'm from Brawley, California, and just like you said, the hottest temperature it reached was 127 degrees one summer. I used to complain about the heat in Brawley, right? Then I find myself in Germany in December, and then the cold was unbearable. I had never experienced anything like that, and it was, like I said, -10, -20. And I said, I'm never gonna complain about weather ever again, man, because I've experienced extreme heat and extreme cold. Now, if you ask me personally, I'll choose the heat over the cold all day long because you cannot. That cold is something else.
So you're in Kuwait.
Yeah.
Are you apprehensive about going to the country where the hostilities are?
I was okay until they pulled us into this classroom and showed us a video of these Russian troops in like Chechnya, and they drove a vehicle over a mine or a roadside bomb, and all the bodies flew everywhere. And they said, guess what? This is what you're going to be facing in Iraq. And I remember looking at that bomb explode. I hadn't seen anything like that prior to that. I guess my idea of war was you face the enemy head on, they face you head on, and you shoot it out, see whoever wins. That's not the way it went down. So when I seen the roadside bomb, I remember thinking, I even wrote it in a journal. It's like, I don't think there's no way to defend yourself against that. I don't think I might survive this. So it became scary at that point.
And then how long were you in Kuwait, and what happened next?
We were there for 1 month training, and then we loaded onto vehicles and we pushed past the border up north. It took us 3 days to get to our destination of Balad, Iraq. So Balad was 50 miles north of Baghdad, right in the center of the Sunni Triangle. So you have Tikrit up at the top, which is Saddam Hussein's hometown, Baghdad on the bottom, and Fallujah to the left. So we were right in the center of the Sunni Triangle for a 13-month deployment.
So when was your first real sense of danger once you'd entered Iraq?
Okay. On day one, the camp that I was on, it got incoming, meaning the enemy insurgents launched mortars or rockets onto the camp, and things were exploding, loud sounds and booms. I kind of like look around, like in the internet cafe. We had an internet cafe where you can email back home and look around. And now the previous unit, 4th ID, the 4th Infantry Division, they were there. We were going to relieve them. So they had already been in country for like 15, 18 months, a long time. They were used to it. We were not used to it. And we like look around, and they're like, relax, bro, it's incoming. So I guess a combination of seeing not them panic and then, but that in itself was not even scary. That was just my introduction to enemy fire or indirect mortar fire. I think, to answer your question, when did it become? When it became real was up north in Tikrit.
Know what that means? Ooh, I've been hearing that a lot lately. That's what I hear when we make another sale on Shopify, the all-in-one commerce platform to start, run, and grow your business. Shopify is the commerce platform revolutionizing millions of businesses worldwide. Whether you're selling Pokemon cards or hoodies, Shopify simplifies selling online and in person so you can successfully grow your business. Covering all your sales channels from a shopfront ready POS system to its all-in-one e-commerce platform. Shopify even gets you selling across social media marketplaces like Facebook, Instagram, and TikTok. Full of the industry-leading tools ready to ignite your growth, Shopify gives you complete control over your business and your brand without learning new skills in design or coding. And thanks to award-winning help and with an extensive business course library, Shopify is ready to support your success every step of the way. What's lovely about Shopify is that no matter how big you want to grow, Shopify will be there to empower you with the confidence and control to take your business to the next level. It's time to get serious about selling and get Shopify today. This is Possibility, powered by Shopify. Sign up for a £1 per month trial period at shopify.co.uk/Shaun, SHAUN, all lowercase. Go to shopify.co.uk/Shaun to take your business to the next level today. Shopify.co.uk/Shaun. Link in description box if you're watching this on YouTube. Thanks for supporting our sponsor. Back to the podcast. Cheers.
A captain and a specialist, Ford, were killed in a roadside bomb, and they were from our unit, the 1st Infantry Division, but a different company. And when that made the news, and it's like, wow, like we can die. Our people are dying here now. It kind of became real. A couple of days passed, and then we lost the engineer platoon, lost a specialist due to another roadside bomb. Because you got to understand, in 2004 was the beginning of the Iraqi insurgency, meaning that they were now utilizing guerrilla warfare, ambushes, indirect fire, roadside bombs, car bombs. So there's a bunch of these hit and run tactics that were effective. When that guy died, it was like, oh man, like I can get killed here. And then it kind of just picked up. It just picked up where my friend would eventually get killed when we were out on a patrol.
Wow. Before we get to that, then, what was your day-to-day jobs?
So basically, man, and again, I tell you, believe me when I tell you, man, we worked 24/7, 365. You were not ever off. There was always a threat of you getting killed. And our duties varied. We would often go out and patrol the sector. So it was an agricultural area. There was a lot of farmhouses. They had goats, date fields, orchards, grape orchards, date trees. And we would visit the homes, ensure that there was no bad guys, quote unquote, ensure that they only had one AK-47 per household, because that was a rule that we gave them. And then at nighttime, we would raid houses at 3 a.m. We'd kick in doors. We'd paint our face. We'd snatch people up, targets, military-aged males. We would zip tie them with plastic zip ties. At the time, we were putting sandbags over their head so they couldn't see, but they would end up changing that and tell us we couldn't do that because apparently some of them were asphyxiating and dying. So then we had to put blindfolds on them. Every time our camp got mortared, which was daily, our camp took incoming. It was the name of the camp was called Forward Operating Base Palawada, FOB Palawada. And the reason it was called Palawada was because 1 month prior to us getting there, there was a Captain Palawada from the 4th Infantry Division that was killed by rocket fire. So I went from FOB Eagle to FOB Palawada. So one of our duties was we had a satellite on our camp that would track the trajectory of the mortars, and we would get the grid location. We would have to go and explore and see if we can catch the bad guys. But by then they would be long gone, because what they would do is they would drive a white truck, park on the side of the road, lob a couple of mortars, boom, 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 like 3 or 4 or 5, and then get in the truck and drive away. So by the time we got there, they'd be gone. At the time, we were pulling guard duty on the detainees, the targets that we were bringing back from the raids. We had this little makeshift jail on the camp, and we had to observe them. And at the time, they told us, make sure that these guys do not fall asleep and do not feed them. So again, I don't know about the rules. I don't know about, the Geneva Convention as far as that, but that's what we were told to do. Me personally, I didn't care if they fell asleep. You know what I mean? I was kind of just chilling. And on our camp, we had towers that were on the outside of the perimeter. So when we were not on patrol, one of our duties was to pull